Go out while you're on top or bail out before things get worse. How to know when it's time to sell. That's coming up next on Your Business. Hi everyone, I'm JJ Ramberg and welcome to Your Business, where we give you advice on how to help your business grow. One of the toughest decisions entrepreneurs have to make is whether to sell their business or put more money and time into growing it. Some owners go it alone rather than pay potentially pricey consultants. But there are firms out there that small business owners can afford to help make this decision.
I'm able to compare last year's sales for the month across the board, and it also gives us the margins.
Yep, we'll
so you can see that growth.
Crunching the numbers is part of the daily routine at FOSTORIA Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical Supply Company. But it wasn't always this way at the 63-year-old Ohio business.
Budgeting, we never ever worked on a budget before.
It wasn't until the owners considered selling that they actually got down to business.
Our mentality is we can't keep going through our process every day and just keep coming in and collecting a paycheck.
Liz Cook, Mike Reinhardt, and Marge Warner are siblings and business partners. They're 3 of the 10, yes, that's 10, brothers and sisters that took over their father's business in the late 1980s.
Well, we weren't sure exactly what we were doing. I knew that I needed to work. I kind of, I thought about the selling, just get it done, get it over with, and not have to deal with anything anymore.
Tensions within the family grew as some of the older siblings wanted to keep the company running as it had for decades, while the younger ones wanted change, even if it meant selling the business to avoid any future family conflict.
Some of us felt like we were working more than the other half of the siblings were, and we definitely were putting in more hours than the other half. Once we brought Jim in, the other siblings all left. They just decided they didn't want to be a part of the change that we wanted to move the business forward.
Jim is Jim Talerico of the Chicago area consulting firm Strategic Business Partners.
One of the things that we see happen with small businesses is that typically it's built on the talents of individuals rather than on the sound system procedures and controls that are needed. And what happens is as a business gets larger, there's only so many hours in a day. And so the business becomes less effective and efficient as they grow.
Jim's firm was very upfront with us. One of the things that I remember most about when he came in, they told us, they said, we can sugarcoat things for you, or we can tell you very bluntly how we feel about your business and what changes you need to make. And at that point, we thought we're going to get more bang for our buck that we're spending with them if we just let them tell us what we're doing wrong or what we're doing right.
The majority of companies that Strategic works with are family-owned. It's Talerico's job to help decide whether it's time to sell or give them the tools to grow. He and the FOSTORIA siblings decided in this case they could turn around the company while maintaining ownership.
It was a lot of work to turn the business around. I looked back from my mom and dad started this business, and the old-fashioned way was pen and paper.
You remember what we called the system that was half electronic and half manual? Mantronic system?
Mantronic.
No more Mantronic systems.
We can do things in a different manner to be more profitable, and that's really what we wanted to do, and that's where we're at now.
Talerico gave the siblings at FOSTORIA an extensive to-do list. Within a year, they started seeing results, including improved cash flow, lower inventory overhead, and a 10% increase in the company's profit margins. Jim Clayman, owner of the Clearwater, Florida-based Ace Medical Equipment, came to a different conclusion than the FOSTORIA siblings when he took a hard look at the future of his business. He hired a consultant to broker a sale.
They filtered out clients that weren't qualified. They filtered out clients that were just going to waste my time because they were tire kickers. They really kept the people that were looking at the business down, and they came here and visited. They limited those to the people that were very serious about the business.
Clayman worked with the Connecticut-based Woodbridge Group and its CEO, Bob Murphy.
The one criteria we always look at, they got to be passionate. And for us, it's passionate about working with a business owner, where he's passionate because he started the business, he's owned the business a long time. And for us, The passion we enjoy is extensively marketing these companies to get as many potential buyers as you can.
The process was labor-intensive.
Getting the package ready was a much more time-consuming process than I think that my wife and I expected. We had to go through our books and extract certain numbers that were not easy to find in the books. They asked a lot of pointed questions that was a great self-evaluation, and I really appreciated how they made me think about myself, about my role in the business, about our competitors, about our environment, about our structure.
It paid off. With the guidance of Woodbridge, Clayman successfully sold his business last year. He's agreed to stay on for 2 years to aid the transition. Strategic's fees start at $2.85 an hour. Woodbridge charges 4% of the sale price. But for the folks at Ace Medical Equipment and at Fostoria, it was more than just a matter of dollars and cents.
We're still working a lot of hours, but it's done a lot. It's a lot more efficient than it ever was.
The one thing that you can't measure is the change in quality of life. These people are very hard workers. They probably always will be. But we've calculated that they're working probably, each one of the owners, 10 hours less a week. And that's something that you really can't even measure.
Knowing when and how to sell your business can be an emotionally gut-wrenching experience. So let's turn to this week's Board of Directors to get their take. Jim Talerico is a vice president at Strategic Business Partners, a management consulting firm, which you just saw in the piece. Joining me here on the set is Susan Sullivan. She's the CEO of SBTV.com and author of the book, The Girl's Guide to Building a $1 Million Business. And Norm Brodsky joins us again. He's the owner and CEO of City Storage and a columnist for Inc. magazine, and a great person to have on for this panel because you just recently sold your company.
I did.
So we will get to hear a little bit about your personal experience. But Jim, let's start with you because you talk to companies every day who are thinking about selling themselves. Mm-hmm. What are some of the factors you should consider when trying to determine whether you should sell or invest a little bit more blood, sweat, tears, and perhaps money into your company?
Well, the way I'd answer that question, JJ, is that the ideal time to sell a business is when three things converge: market considerations, personal considerations, and optimal business performance. The idea behind market forces is real simple. Just like with real estate, when the real estate market is hot, your house is going to sell for more. Similarly, if the economy is doing well, there's going to be a premium attached to your business. Now, there are different industries that are always up and down, but generally speaking, if you have the luxury of timing and you can sell when the economy is good, there's going to be a premium attached to that.
So in the case of the Fostoria siblings, whose business we just saw profiled in the piece, do you think they could get better performance out of their company by maintaining it rather than selling it?
Well, no, actually, the third point that I had about optimal business performance is what was the issue there. What we do is we look at businesses, we do an extensive analysis, and what we're looking for is where are they relative to the upper quartile, which is the top 3% of businesses in their industry. You know, in terms of looking at how they can improve, basically you apply two types of thinking, critical thinking and creative thinking. The creative thinking says, well, how do we get where we want to go? Critical is what steps are we going to take? And we really thought this was a textbook case where they could improve their business performance and maximize their potential. Generally speaking, businesses will sell at some multiple of their cash flow, and so first and foremost, you want to make sure that the business is at its peak performance.
So Norm, I suspect you thought your business was at its peak performance when you decided to sell?
Yeah, well, I went through a 2-year process because the first sale fell through. And even though I don't believe in consultants, sorry, Jim, in this particular case, he's absolutely right. You can't do it yourself. We did it. We learned a great lesson from doing it. And we got lucky because the second people that came in, we closed on December of this last few months ago, 4 months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. That's why I'm smiling a lot. And at that time, the credit crisis had already hit, but we were fortunate in the fact that the people we did the business with had their own money. They were fine.
You know, I think Jim brings up an interesting point, though. Oftentimes, people want to sell when things aren't going well with their company, and yet that may be the worst time to sell, right?
I think so, absolutely. I went through this actually in my own family. My mother and father owned a business together, and they always talked about selling, and every time somebody would come in to look at the business, my parents, who had given birth to this business, kept saying, oh, they're just not the right people, this won't work. And then sadly my mother became ill with Alzheimer's, and when we had to sell, at that point in time, it became a fire sale. So I think you do need to be very planful and make smart decisions and recognize that once you sell a business, and Norm, I bet you're experiencing this right now, once you sell a business, the new owner may not do things the way you have always done them, but that needs to be okay. It's just like letting your children grow up and go out on their own.
Yeah, Jim, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, you know, you often can't time when personal situations are going to occur. Because a small business owner's biggest investment is in fact their business, what you should be doing is giving a lot of thought to a meaningful, thoughtful exit plan and succession strategy. And that just doesn't happen overnight. Done right, it can take several years to position that company properly.
All right, well, Jim Talerico, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.